Who says you can't be building your dream life while still at the typical corporate 9 to 5? Here's some steps on how to do so and feel like you're becoming your best self. Yay, I'm so glad you're back. Welcome to Align Your Day. This is your girl, Jennifer Anopoulos, your certified life coach, helping corporate women release their stress and build their dream lives. So today, on the topic of what I just said, we're going to talk about some keys that will be helpful for you when it comes to building your dream life, even while having that 9 to 5 corporate job, right? I feel like now we're seeing maybe we're scrolling through social media, or we're seeing, things about create your own business and step into your passions and, start this side hustle and, ooh, corporate, like it's so bad, like get out of corporate, get out of the 9 to 5 hustle or grind or whatnot. And, I'm here to say that, of course, there are the people who will not be aligned to that corporate lifestyle. It doesn't work for them. But who's to say that, there won't be moments where there won't be people who, have that corporate lifestyle for a bit and then transition into their own business or their passions? Or who says you can't be in corporate, for majority of your career or all of your career, while also still building your passions and feeling like you're building your dream life, right? And obviously this is coming from my experience where I'm creating my business, my side coaching business, and following my passions. I recently took a certification all of last year to become a certified coach. So this is coming from someone who has stepped into building those side hustles, becoming my dream self, even while having a typical corporate 9 to 5 job, right? So I wanted to give you some keys, some insights, some tips for how you can really ensure that you're becoming your best self, you're building your dream life in whatever capacity that looks like, even while you have a corporate job. So I just want to give you some tips for that, because I don't think it's exclusionary where like you can only be building your dream life or have a dream life if you're not in corporate and running your own business. I don't think that's the case, right? I think we're each creating our own little recipe or brand for ourselves. And that may look different person to person. For one person, it can look like building that brand and going all the way and serving their corporation to the highest, and that's how they feel fulfilled. And for another, it could be stepping fully into their business or whatnot, right? But let's find a way to ensure that you're still being your best self, you're activating your best self in whatever you're at, right? So let's do it. So the first key I wanted to share with you is being in corporate, right? Being in that corporate 9 to 5 job, it actually shows you, and it's a great indicator of what your stress responses are. And this can allow you to understand where you might still be having behavior patterns that are subconsciously running, okay? And this is really, really key, because in order to maybe grow out of old habits that you had to learn to cope from childhood, or old habits maybe you built when you were in past stressful moments in your life, or maybe you had old behavior habits and you just want to start to shift into new ones and become a newer, more expansive, more confident, more thriving, quote unquote, version of yourself, right? So in order to, sometimes we don't necessarily know what some of these behavior patterns are, what some of our old patterns or old behaviors that we do that are still keeping us stuck in feeling less confident, feeling less secure, feeling like we always have to hustle, or whatever you may constantly find yourself in that you want to start to shift out of, right? We may not be aware of what those behaviors are. But actually being in corporate, where obviously the environment is stressful sometimes, you probably have to present to client meetings, you're probably responsive to managers if you're still growing in your career and you're younger. You have to work with different people and get to know different working styles, and you have to learn how to communicate and how to communicate effectively, right? So anyways, all that goes to say is, because that environment does cause stress, right? That corporate environment does cause a bit of stress, or a lot of stress depending, right? It's a perfect mirror to show you what some of your automatic behavior patterns are, okay? Because when you're under stress, that's when a lot of your like subconscious patterns will be coming out, because your nervous system is not feeling safe. And so basically what happens is it goes to like automatic responses that have kept you safe in the past. So let's say that in childhood, right, you learn that people pleasing and understanding what your parents wanted and saying exactly what they wanted was going to make you feel safe. That pattern is most likely coming out when you're feeling stressed in your corporate job, right? Like let's say you're feeling stressed, your manager's coming up with new tasks for you or asking you to help for something. And let's say you don't have the capacity to help with it. But because you're under stress and because you know that people pleasing worked in the past, you're going to respond with, yes, of course I could do it. Like, yeah, give it to me, of course. When maybe you really couldn't handle it. And it would be better if you just vocalized, hey, my plate is full. Can somebody else allocate to it? Right? So that's a situation where, because that corporate environment is like is stressful, it's a great mirror to show you what are some automatic responses, what are some automatic behaviors or patterns that are not working for you. And that is fantastic when it comes to growing to your best self, because now you're aware. You're going to start to become aware of, what are my responses when I'm stressed, right? What are my responses? What do I normally do? And how can I slowly start to shift those, right? So that's why I think that, there's this benefit basically when it comes to being in this more stressful corporate environment, because you can still learn and grow and become the next version of yourself, because it's actually growing your awareness of what behavior patterns are not working. And in order to change, the first step to any change is awareness. Awareness precedes choice. You can't know that you can't tie your shoe if you don't know it's untied. Okay, that might have been like a really random metaphor, but basically you need to be aware of something in order to start to shift it, right? And so being in that corporate environment is a great way to become aware of what your stress responses are, what your behaviors are when you are stressed, and starting to shift those, because then that will translate to, being able to have better behavior responses in your relationships, right? You'll become less and less that people pleaser, for example, in your relationships. You'll feel more confident in yourself, because old patterns, old habits that are keeping you stuck in, maybe a version of yourself that didn't feel as confident, that had to maybe hustle to find their worth, or, your worth or your status. You won't be as inclined to feel that way about yourself, because you're stepping into new behavior patterns. So that is one really big key that I've been loving when it comes to learning and growing and growing to my best self while still in corporate. So how can you start to make this like a takeaway for yourself? What's like a key takeaway from this? So what you can start to do is ask yourself and start to notice what are my typical responses when I'm stressed. So let's have like a mini reflection at the end of your day, right? What stressed me out today? What were my responses when I was stressed? Did I say yes and I took too much on? Did I immediately go to my phone to distract myself? Did I just keep working and perpetually keeping myself busy? What were some of the responses that you did during the day? Okay, that is really key, because that will show you where you might still be keeping yourself stuck in old patterns and old loops. And then the next step that's really key is to get yourself and give yourself little signals you can do throughout the day to make yourself feel more safe and more calm throughout the day. So basically, these are little suggestions you can give to your nervous system, which, like I said, is running those subconscious patterns. That I want you to start to give yourself little signals to show yourself you're safe, it's okay, and you can start to build more presence and more calmness throughout your day. And that will allow you to choose differently, to respond a little differently, because you're only going to feel safe to, for example, going back to that manager example, you're only going to feel safe to respond differently and say that, for example, your load is full, if you're feeling more safe, more present, and your body isn't going to a stress response and going to your automatic people-pleasing response as a subconscious thing, basically. Because a lot of those responses when you're stressed are more subconscious. You don't realize that you're responding the same way that you did when you were 8 and you had to, make yourself feel safe at home, for example. So that's really, really key. And if you want like a step-by-step guide that takes you through the process of A, starting to become aware of your stress responses, B, giving yourself little signals throughout the day to feel more calm in your nervous system, and C, giving yourself little mini things you can start to do to shift some of the old behaviors so you're feeling more confident and less stressed when it comes to your workday and your work environment. I have a free 5-day guide that actually takes you through this whole process. It's just my guide to it's called just the 5-day email guide to reduce stress and reduce people pleasing in your workday. So if you want that, if that's like, ooh, I want to try that out, that is great for you. It will help increase your awareness of what these what you normally do when you're stressed, and it'll help you start to shift those patterns, because you're going to start to allow yourself to feel more safe and more calm throughout your workday. So if you want that, be sure to download my free 5-day email guide. It's in the show notes, and it's in the YouTube notes below this. So that is your first key. It's reminding yourself that the corporate environment is a great way to show you what some of your behaviors are that are keeping you stuck and keeping you in old patterns. So that's really, really key when it comes to building your dream life and becoming your best self, because you may not know what's keeping you stuck into your old self until you have awareness of those. So really key. And that's what I love to do. And for me personally, it was definitely that people pleasing thing that I realized. I was keeping myself in projects I didn't like. I was not speaking up or advocating for myself as much, because like when it came to management conversations or speaking to my colleagues that I had to give work to, it was always causing me stress, and I was not like speaking up and speaking confidently. So now that I realize, like, oh my gosh, Jenna, like your go-to response when you're stressed is to stay quiet, is to people please, is to not advocate for yourself. That's when I started to realize, damn, this is probably, reflecting in my relationships. This is probably reflecting in my self-confidence, right? Because one area of your life typically reflects in others too. So because I was able to become aware of that behavior while I was in that corporate job, while I'm in my corporate job, I start to shift it, and it created ripples in my self-confidence, in my relationships, and feeling more confident in my day-to-day. And I wouldn't maybe have realized that I was doing that if I didn't have that corporate environment that showed me what that stress response was, if that makes sense. So hope that is helpful for you. And that's my first key. Okay, let's move on to the second key. So the second key when it comes to building your dream life and becoming your best self, even while in corporate, is, and I know this may sound cliche, but I'm going to give you like a little bit of a different flavor to this. The second key is to fill your morning cup. And what this means is, it could mean having, a morning routine, maybe the same one you do each day, to feel grounded, to feel ready for your day. I like to view my morning routine a little bit differently. So instead of maybe having like the same routine that you go to, or you watch that YouTube video that's like 6 a.m., like that woman routine. I mean, those are amazing. Those are great. If you have an hour or 2 hours before your workday and you want to like do a full routine and that works for you, fantastic. Go you. But if you're like me and you kind of want something that maybe can change throughout your day-to-day, maybe doesn't take an hour, something that I like to keep in mind is, what do I need in order to feel how I want to feel today? Like, that is literally the question I ask myself. So let's say I wake up one morning and I realize, you know what, I just want to feel more at peace today and more grounded. That's maybe when I'll do something that's a little bit more calming, right? I'll like boil some water and I'll just sip some warm water, because I know like the warm liquid like calms you down. So I'll do that for 5 minutes and I'll just sit and I'll feel more grounded. If I know that I want to feel more excited because maybe I've been feeling just more bleh throughout my day-to-day, that's when I'll do something more energizing, right? Go for a morning walk, feel that sun, listen to Hannah Montana. I've been having an old school playlist. It's been iconic, but that's when I'll pop on like, Hannah Montana, an old school playlist, and I'll be like, yes, like let's get motivated, let's get zesty. If I want to feel more clarity and more focused, that's when I'll do like a little bit of a journal dump, right? So I love to like kind of just ask myself, what do I need in order to feel how I want to feel that day, right? And that allows you to be more flexible with your morning routine and maybe feel like you're not doing the same one each morning if that doesn't work for you. If like doing the same thing each morning does work for you, that's fantastic, and keep it going. Or what I could also suggest is having like a couple things that you always keep in it. So let's say, for example, for me, it would be always drinking a glass of water and almost always doing a 5-minute meditation. And then I'll add on whatever else, like little ad hoc things I need. But those are always like the 2 staples I keep. And then I allow it to be versatile and flow and do different things depending on how I want to feel, if that makes sense. So you can keep like a couple staples, but then maybe just allow it to flow and do something differently. And if you want to basically like I would suggest like having maybe like a sheet that you create for yourself that has, okay, if I want to feel energized, I could do these few things. If I want to feel more clarity today, I could do these few things, just so you make less decisions in the morning and you kind of already have options laid out for you, if that makes sense. Because you don't want to wake up in the morning and be like, what do I need to do in order to feel excited today. You want to have kind of like a menu or like a go-to thing you can use in order to just be like, okay, I want to feel this way today. I can do these 3 things. Takes maybe 15, 20 minutes and go from there. So that's like what I suggest for you to do. And it allows you to be more versatile and flow throughout your day a bit more. And on the topic of this, if you're like, oh my gosh, that'd be like amazing to have almost like a mix and match morning routine generator for myself. So I can pick out a couple things I can do when I'm excited, a couple things to do when I want to feel clarity. I actually created like a full mix and match sheet that you can use to create your own morning routine, depending on how you want to feel that day. So if you want that, I have like a free Master Your Morning Routine Bootcamp. And it's like an hour-long little class, and I kind of go through what you can do, the options you can do to create like a morning routine that fulfills you. And I also like create like a full PDF sheet that has mix and match morning routines based on how long you want your morning routine to be that day. So if you only have, 15 minutes, I have ones that range from 15 minutes to an hour, and they're mix and match depending on how you want to feel that day. So if you want to download that, I also have that free guide, and that will be down below as well. I'm like, I want to create these resources because it's just important to have, and it's nice to have things that are personalized and you can kind of pick and choose. So that's my little second tip, is fill your morning dose and find a routine that allows you to feel how you want to feel. Okay, the third key is to savor and be intentional with your time alone, right? When you have a busy corporate job, when you have those corporate responsibilities, and when you have that 9 to 5 that does take up a lot of your workday, right? I think that something that has been so key for me to stay grounded in becoming my best self, to stay grounded in creating a life that's fulfilling to me, is to be intentional about your time alone, right? It's easy to get off of work, maybe go immediately to consume content on social media, immediately to, watching Netflix or watching YouTube, or immediately to your workout, which is great, like fantastic. But, are you carving out, or are you ensuring that you have even 15, 20 minutes, in your week where you're doing like a check-in with yourself, right? When you're asking yourself, okay, like when you're giving yourself a chance to ask yourself, okay, what's working? What's not working? Am I feeling fulfilled with what I'm doing right now? And you can maybe do like a little check-in when it comes to different areas of your life. So what I like to do is I like to do little audits, basically. My little CPA, my inner CPA is coming out, but I like to do little audits in different areas of my life. So I'll do like a personal audit, I'll do a relationship audit, and then I'll do like a work audit. And so basically all that means is, fancy lingo, is, okay, what's working when it comes to my relationship with myself? How am I feeling about myself? What's been working? Have my workouts been working well? Do I feel like my morning routines have allowed me to feel energized? How do I feel about my mental clarity? Just like a little check-in, like what's working, what's not, right? And then maybe when it comes to your relationships, what's working, what's not? When it comes to your career and your work, what's working, what's not, right? Just something simple where when you do have that time alone, allow it to be a check-in, allow it to be like almost like a recalibration period for, okay, let's get honest about, what may need to start shifting in my life and what is already going well. And I could just sit there and have a couple extra minutes to appreciate, right? Because I think that's when people can find themselves, down the line years later of like, holy shit, why am I even doing what I'm doing, right? Because they didn't give themselves a chance to step back and be like, what are you doing? What's working? What's not? Are you choosing what you're doing in your life? Right? Do your actions reflect your choices? Do your actions reflect the version of yourself that you want to become, that you see yourself as? And if not, let's start to recalibrate a little bit, right? So it's so key on that journey, on that path of evolving yourself and, creating your dream life, creating those anchor points, creating those checkpoints, right? Almost like when you're in a little Mario Kart race and they have like checkpoints at the end of each lap before you finish that race, right? Create little checkpoints for yourself so you can really be anchored in, why are you doing what you're doing, right? Why are you taking this action? Finding your why, I feel like, is like in so many different leadership books, right? And so it's so key to kind of have those moments to come back to yourself, to ask yourself what's working, and then start to slowly shift what needs to be shifted. And I think that's really what's creating a powerful life, an empowering life for yourself. And that's how you're going to slowly start to really, become your best self, is because you're being intentional about those things. And And obviously the second point to that is when you do find what's not working, taking those steps to shift it, right? Reaching out, finding resources. Hopefully this is a good resource for you. Finding people, maybe hiring a coach if you need one. Holla, how are you? No, I'm kidding. But hiring support, reaching out to your friends, being like, yo, I need support in this area. Lean in, ask them, see what they have, ask for different ideas, get inspired. Like, you can shift what you need to shift. It's just a matter of A, becoming aware of it, like I mentioned earlier, and B, asking the right questions and connecting yourself to the right resources. Just about being resourceful, right? And I really want you to feel that way when it comes to creating your dream self. And that could totally be possible even in a corporate 9 to 5, but it's about being intentional with your time alone and not letting, the cycle of work, entertainment, sleep keep you from feeling grounded and empowered in what you want to be creating for your life, right? Because there can be that cycle of like work, eat, sleep, or work, eat, entertainment, sleep. Sure, that can happen, but you can always start to shift it by being more intentional, carving out those moments to ask yourself a few of those powerful questions. So hopefully that's helpful.